My name is Drew Zaitzoff. I am one of the psychology interns at Counseling Services. So right here on my name badge. And, well, welcome to Rock, Paper, Xbox, Counseling Services cat chat on the topic of video games, mental health, and how to play games in school without getting plagued by games while in school. For all of you who are attending, thank you. For everyone who's attending via Zoom, thank you very much for being here as well. You guys have already signed in, so I'm not going to worry about that. This is a presentation, yes, but I suspect that it's one that is pretty, well, close to all of us. So if you have any questions or comments going on throughout, please let me know about it. For the folks on Zoom, we have a chat box open here, and I'll be addressing any questions that you guys have when we get to the end there. So, like I said, I am a therapist, and that's not actually on. Like I said, I need to put this on the front screen. Give me a sec. Okay, unfortunately this part of technology is not my usual piece, but sometimes I can figure it out. All right, let me know if that goes out again. Okay, so overcoming some technical difficulties, we can have the screen right here, and everything that could go wrong. I said, there we go. Okay, overcoming more technical difficulties. Like I said, I am a therapist. I am also a person who spends a good bit of time playing games. This is my Steam page. I am a computer gamer. I am not a console gamer. My family did not ever hold with consoles growing up, but we could afford a computer. And that was something that kind of grew up from me. If you look at a lot of the academic research on video games, which I have, frankly, a lot of it comes off as being pretty hostile. You've got research coming out that video games make us aggressive. And that research was played out in the state of California when they had a case that actually went to the Supreme Court saying, hey, we should regulate video games, they make kids aggressive, we should be restricting them. You've got other research arguing that any amount of play is addictive, gets people hooked. And this isn't the perspective that I am coming from. Like, I'm coming from the idea that video games are a way for me to relax, for me to blow off steam, for me to keep in contact with friends and family who otherwise, they're all the way back in Pennsylvania, Virginia. I'm out here in Kansas. It's a very different place. At the same time, I also recognize that I have gotten unreasonably furious at teammates playing League of Legends when they mess up a gank somewhere. Yeah, we're smiling. They've all done that at some point. And I know I've spent more time than I am willing to admit on camera playing World of Warcraft. Like, that game essentially owned me from about, 2004, 2005, out to longer than I'll admit. So, point being, when I talk about video games, I am seeing their benefits as fun and stress relief, and their problems as being a form of avoidance, both from personal and professional perspectives. So, video games are pretty popular, pretty popular and pretty common at this point. Like, World of Warcraft maxed out at about 11 million separate people playing it in about 2008. Nobody else, to my knowledge, has even come close to that number yet. League of Legends has tournaments that have prizes worth millions of dollars on their own, with lots of people competing for them. I myself was never even close to that, but there are people who actually can make a living doing that kind of competition. The first Call of Duty Black Ops, I think, made more in its first day of release than James Cameron's Avatar did in its entire opening weekend. And Avatar was a big budget movie. Just turned out that Black Ops was an even bigger budget game. The Entertainment Software Association is estimating, as of, a couple years ago, that the video game industry itself is worth something on the order of $25 billion a year. which you may recognize as more money than any of us will ever see in our entire lives. Research suggests that upwards to 97% of adolescents and 40% of adults actively play video games on a pretty frequent basis. I mean, I'm curious about you guys. Like, what games do you play?
Rocket League.
Rocket League? Okay.
Recently, Last of Us. Playing a lot of Fallout 4.
Fallout 4 is the new hotness, yeah. And Last of Us. Okay, so it sounds like some RPG stuff there, a little bit of competitive car soccer.
Casual games and stuff.
Okay. For myself, you're going to be seeing my references sprinkled throughout here. I do a lot of RPGs. I do a lot of tactical and turn-based type games. And I recognize for me, those are playing off of different draws for me. There are different appeals to them. So this guy here, Gordon Kaluja, argues that video games are themselves inherently escapist. It's the idea of, you can be someone who is influential and powerful. Because when you're playing Fallout 4, like, nobody tells the sole survivor what's going on. Mostly. You can go through and do what you want, take over a couple factions, and run things. It's going to a different world, like Last of Us. Like, part of that game takes place in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am from Pittsburgh. And for me, like, seeing that place reimagined in this different way, full of plant zombies, was really interesting to me. Because that's home, but a little bit different. It's having the opportunity to challenge yourself in a place where the rules of the challenge are pretty clear cut. Like, if we're talking about, what's something else I was playing? Well, XCOM. Like, there are characters, here are the moves they can do, here's the number of actions you can take. That is a clear set of scenarios, as opposed to the outside world, where a lot of times the challenges are more muddled. Thinking about getting through college, there are so many rules and regulations and expectations that aren't always necessarily made clear. Excuse me. And that can be a difficult thing. The flip side of escapism is avoidance. Like, well, let me ask you guys, what do we play games to avoid? Reality, school. Okay. Like, I know for myself, when I was thinking about that, for me, it's, stress, social situations, romantic troubles, schoolwork, general anxiety. Yeah, all these things that kind of suck about real life. And like this guy here, he does not have to worry about final exams. Like, that guy's a guy who's going to go resolve a civil war, go defeat the world leader, and then, I don't know, build a house or something. Like, he's not concerned about having to study for things. He can just go do. And for me, that can be real appealing sometimes, being able to not have to worry about the future stuff and just do. And, well, I want to be clear. Getting away from your problems is not necessarily a bad thing. There's something to be said for being able to take a step back. But from your perspectives, what's the difference between escapism and avoidance? What is it when that escapism becomes a bad thing?
Investing more time in video games than you should be, like as opposed to doing things that need to get done, like work and schoolwork and social life.
Okay, so when it's consuming?
Yeah.
No, for you.
Pretty much the same thing. If I am playing Skyrim, for example, instead of talking about relationship problems with my girlfriend, then that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, partners generally don't appreciate it when we're hooked on the screen rather than actually doing something with them. Yeah. So what I'm hearing there with both of those is when the game is kind of infringing on the outside world. I'm trying to avoid using real life because sometimes this can feel real, but the place of actual people. Well, there's a brief questionnaire that is used by clinicians to evaluate people's alcohol use. And I think some of the questions on there are useful here. Like, what do we got? Do you ever feel like you need to cut back because you play too much? Do other people get annoyed by how much you play? And do you ever feel guilty about how much you play? And thinking for myself, in terms of that League of Legends and that World of Warcraft, those are questions that kind of got me thinking real hard about what I was doing when I was playing, and maybe playing too much. So, speaking professionally, the most common reason I speak with people who are getting played by their games instead of playing their games is when they've been referred to counseling services by the Office of Student Life. And a lot of the time, it's very similar stories. It's this idea of, I was I don't know, the semester got overwhelming. I was having trouble keeping up. I had so many extracurricular activities and this going on at home and that and the other thing. And something slipped. Some homework assignment didn't get done, didn't end up going to a class. And person ends up sitting down, playing some game, and before they realize it, they've missed more class. And that keeps compounding. You get that frustration too, of like, all right, well, I've already played through this class, so that's kind of done for. Like, I'm doomed on that. May as well just keep playing and doing something else. And that goes on long enough, eventually you get people who are coming because they're in danger of failing out of K-State for the semester or entirely. So, broadly speaking, there's two types of problematic play. The first is this idea of psychosocial problematic. A big part of this is the avoidance I was talking about. Like, reality sucks, I am playing the game to avoid that reality. Another part is when a person starts leaning on the game to make themselves feel better. Like, I get the idea of, having fun, blowing off steam, but I've talked to folks for whom it's less I'm having fun and more this is a thing I need to do to not feel bad. And eventually they just start just playing the game because that's the only thing that's working for them. The last idea is this hook that the games a person plays has social interactions that are more comfortable for them than the social interactions in the outside world. So maybe they've got a guild that they're really close with, and it's easy to talk with those folks, it's fun, but real world interactions with actual people are confusing, they're strange, they're not as engaging. So you spend more time playing the game, and more and more and more. The other type of problematic play is what I call mechanical. In a way, video game addiction can operate like gambling addiction. So you guys may have taken some psychology classes. Anybody? Okay. If you had taken some psychology classes, you may have heard about this guy named Skinner. And he worked with rats. He was a behavioralist. What he did was make a little box with a lever on it. When the rats would push the lever, a treat comes out. And they would kind of keep doing that until it ran out of treats. They do it for a little bit beyond that, eventually realize there was nothing more in there, and let it go. So things got interesting when Skinner changed the box so that it only every once in a while dropped a treat when they were hitting the lever. So the rat would go up, hit the lever, not get anything, but they keep trying back. And eventually they would get something, and that would keep them trying. It's what's called inconsistent reinforcement. And it turns out that it's actually a really good way to get somebody to keep doing something. Because with those rats, what they were finding was that they would keep at that lever well longer than they would have otherwise. But they knew there was a chance that they would be getting something, so they would keep at it. And think about gambling, slot machines. You pull the lever, and you get 1 cherry, 2 cherries, and a 7. That's not a jackpot. It's close to a jackpot, but that's not going to make all the coins fall out in front of the thing. So you try again and again. And a lot of video games use a similar system where it's, you have a boss that drops a particular item. So you go and try and kill the boss, you succeed, but he doesn't drop it. So you come back again and again. It gets more insidious when you think about having your friends who also need something or a guild that you're trying to level up to. All right, taking a guess at it. What types of games do you think, games or genres of games, would kind of lend themselves to problematic play, either social or mechanical?
RPGs like Destiny.
Destiny, how come?
A lot of people will constantly grind in certain areas to get specific types of loot and things like that.
Okay. Honestly, I have not played Destiny, like I said, PC gamer. But there's some loot that only comes from some areas?
General areas. Certain planets have one specific type of material that they can use to get better armor, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, so there's certain areas you have to go to get this certain stuff. Any of them? MMOs? Yeah. Honestly, I wonder if MMOs aren't one of the best for that one. Because you think about it. Massively multiplayer online games, notice I got loud, they've got that random loot section, and they've also got the guilds, so people you're interacting with. And a bit of research that I am looking to do down the line is actually comparing different genres of games to the experiences people are reporting. So one thing I'm wondering is if, yeah, MMOs kind of wouldn't be the top of that. So, what do we do about all of this? Like, both personally and professionally, I believe that problematic play is as much about the game being played as it is this situation, this circumstance that the players find themselves in. Like, yes, I do have an idea that MMOs have more of a hook, or more hooks to them. But I also believe that a lot of times you get somebody who is in a legitimately difficult life situation, and that's one of the ways they've got to try and get out of it. So there's a couple ways to tackle this. There's developing introspection, recognizing the spiral of catastrophizing, developing other means of self-care, creating a schedule for yourself, and seeking support from friends. So the first idea is this introspection and mindfulness. At its most basic, introspection is knowing what's going on with you. It's paying enough attention to realize when something is wrong, like when a movie is being called Revenge of the Jedi instead of Return of the Jedi. A method for developing your sense of introspection is this idea of mindfulness. Mindfulness is focusing on your body and your thoughts, not even trying to evaluate or judge them, just recognizing in yourself how you're feeling. You know, are you tense? Are there certain thoughts that are coming back and kind of haunting you? Someone I work with refers to it as watching leaves go by on a stream. Like, you can see them there, but we're not trying to pick them up, we're not trying to move them, we're just seeing them float by. A lot of time we get hung up on what we're doing, the actions we are taking. I need to get to class, so I'm running here, I have to get dinner later, I have to do this, that, the other thing, I have to talk to people, I have to do this homework, whatever. And because of that, I think that we as people tend to ignore the hints and clues our bodies are giving us. Like, a lot of times our bodies know when they're stressed, just that we have convinced ourselves, we have let our heads convince us that we can push through that. And yeah, we can for a time, sure, but our body's giving us hints for a reason. As we develop our sense of mindfulness, we can start to wonder, like, if you're tense, why? How come? When you recognize that tenseness, what comes up or makes it worse? What gets that one thought that keeps coming back to you? Is there anything particular that seems to get it started? The purpose isn't to judge or condemn ourselves. It's not, you should be less tense, you should stop having these thoughts. It's to recognize that they are and try to figure out where they're coming from. Once you have a sense of what you're avoiding, it can start to try and find better ways to counter it. So, something I have run into quite a bit is this idea of catastrophizing and a cycle, spin of catastrophe. And I was mentioning our friend before who played a game through class, was supposed to turn in some homework during that class, so now he's down some attendance grades, that homework isn't turned in, and this is just catastrophic. And homework grade is done for, participation grade is done for, I may as well just give up on the entire class and not bother going at all. And at that point, you go from getting a 0 on the participation homework for that day to getting a 0 on it for the rest of the class, which makes a big difference. This here is a catastrophizing cycle. Start with a minor setback, assuming that the worst will happen, go, why even bother? I am already doomed. So sit down, play some more games, and eventually leaving yourself with a major setback instead of a minor one. We talk about gearing and spinning to winning. Spinning to winning. This is spinning to lose. It's kind of the other way around. So, well, what do you guys think about this? How do you beat this particular cycle?
The important thing is to really look at yourself and realize when this is happening and have good permission to kind of do something about it. Have someone who's going to help you gain that power.
Yeah, so having somebody, recognizing yourself what's going on, and having somebody who can pull you out of it? What do you think?
Realizing that a minor setback is not the end of the world, and that you always outgrow it, you get into it.
That almost sounds like taking some perspective. Like, seriously. Yeah, okay, so I didn't turn in my homework, I wasn't there for class. The instructor's probably going to be upset about it. But that is not the end of the world on its own. Yeah, that's for sure. So part of the idea is Well, recognizing what is going on with us first of all, and recognizing what's going on with us first of all, and then figuring out what we can do about it. And part of it is, like you were saying, recognizing when we are talking a little too strongly. So we call these positive affirmations when we are talking about how we are going to do better with something. It is my sense that people in general, honestly, are pretty practiced, pretty good at putting ourselves down. We can think of all kinds of ways that we suck at doing something. At the same time, it takes a little more effort for us to be more positive in the affirmations that we're making, to think of ourselves more positively. So positive affirmations are specific to a certain situation. It's not just saying, yep, everything is great now and we are fine. Like that is too general, it's too broad. So beyond that is like right here and right now. It's focused on what we can actually do about the situation. So not just, I'm going to do better, it's I'm going to do what? X, Y, and Z. These are the things that I will do to improve. And affirmations are also about practice, honestly. Like I said, we are good at putting ourselves down. We are less good at building ourselves back up. And because of that, it requires some deliberate effort to actually go through with it. We're trying to counter the negative thoughts that are there with more positive ones. So, well, let me ask you guys, like, we've got these two phrases here. I'm going to freak out when I take this test. I'm just going to lose it. Or I am horrible at studying. What are the positive affirmations to counter those thoughts? Okay, so like I'm acknowledging, like, yeah, this isn't great, but here's the things I can do. Yeah.
I'm freaking out about this test right now, but hey, if I go ahead and study right now at the library, I may stand a chance.
Okay, this is scary, but here's what I can do for it. Yes. Yeah, what did I even have on here? Taking this test is frightening, but I have done X, Y, and Z, studying, going to the library, finding a tutor, whatever, to prepare for it, and I'm going to take it one page at a time. What about the other one? Like I am horrible at studying. Well, for me, my thinking was, I don't use study skills very well. These are the assignments I need to complete. Looking at your syllabus, looking at your day planner, whatever you use. And here are the resources I have to complete them. So yeah, this is hard. Here's the steps I can use to actually go through with them. No. That's it. So it seems to me that when we get talking about being stressed out, taking care of ourselves is the first thing that goes off the plate. A lot of people, myself included, work on the idea that, well, if you can just put your nose to the grindstone, you can just push your way right on through. And to an extent, that works for a while. Like, okay, have any of you all ever had a really rough semester? You get to the finals season, you finish your finals, and then right after that, you just get horribly sick? Because I definitely have. Part of the idea is that your body can manage stress, yes, but there are limits to how much it can deal with. And if we ignore the warning signs that it's giving us, then we're going to burn out. So part of self-care is, first off, becoming aware of what is stressing you out and how you act when you are stressed. For myself, I know that I get tension across my shoulders here. Sometimes if I'm really stressed, I will get headaches, or actually my hands will start to get cold. And those are things that for me were important to realize, because a lot of times if I'm just pushing through, I'm trying to get this assignment done or what have you, and I'm not really thinking about what my body's telling me. All of a sudden I realize my hands are cold. It's like, hey, I need to take a step back. I need to slow down, because I'm going to regret this, and I'm going to stop being able to do the work I need to do productively. Well, there's also recognizing what you can change. The idea of, well, finals are going to come. They're going to happen. That's not going to change, but other things can. if you're doing leadership positions in 2 or 3 different clubs, if you're doing, game nights 4 nights a week or going out to the bars 5 nights a week, what have you, those are things you have some more control over. Those are things you can cut back. Another idea here is in reducing the intensity of the reaction you're having. And that's going to be real different for different people. Some people, it is what we call biofeedback interventions. So if you're feeling stressed out, amped up, your heart starts going, you're breathing shallowly, more quickly, that's your body preparing to fight or flight. And your body and your mind are connected to each other. So as you're getting stressed out there, in your mind, your body comes with it. The reverse is also true, though, where if you can slow your body down, it brings your mind down, too. So you're trying to both manage the intensity and moderate your reactions to it. Also, figuring out what gives you stress relief. Like, some people, it's going for a hike in the Kansas Prairie. It's going to hang out with friends. It's taking a bubble bath. Whatever works is something to be built into your schedule, because I talked to so many people who just let all that go by. Finally, the idea of finding help. We've got it on here as seeking emotional support, but that can mean so many different things for people. Speaking as a therapist, sometimes that's people coming to counseling services. Sometimes it's people going to talk with their friends or their families or their pastors. Sometimes it is going to play with the puppies, which I am using as an opportunity to talk about the Pet Away Stress event we have, where we literally bring puppies onto campus to be played with. It's really useful. Let's see. So another idea is managing your schedule. And I'm pulling this one out. I actually added this slide specifically after this last semester of talking with a good number of people coming to counseling services. And in talking with them, it seemed like one of the problems that was coming up was getting overwhelmed by events. Things sneaking up with them or not being able to keep up with whatever the responsibilities were. When we get talking, it seemed like there was a lot of loose space. Like, yeah, there's classes they need to go to, but that wasn't necessarily set out across their week. So my suggestion is to have some kind of planner or calendar and keep in there, written down, everything that is important, whether that's classes, social events, going to church, doing grocery shopping, whatever you've got going on. And that's blocking out of class time, in class time, and also things that you are doing for yourself. Like I said, what we do for ourselves gets cut out first. So putting it on the schedule in ink, so it cannot be easily written over. Having rewards for yourself. Like, we get through midterms, those are hard. Those are legitimately hard, and doing well in them takes a lot of effort on our part. So doing something for yourself to back that up. Trying to make sure to focus on one thing at a time. Speaking for myself and a number of other people I know, multitasking makes you really good at kind of finishing a bunch of different things and not really getting any one thing done. Another idea I have is this thing of the small times. So small times are what I call the little bits when you get to class early or when you're standing in line or Dean is waiting for some coffee. What are the things that you can do in there? I feel like a lot of mobile games, for example, will fill that space very quickly for you. They've got levels that will be built up in a couple minutes and finished. They've got timers that will only take a few minutes to check back in on and click. But that's a way of soaking up your time. So, what are the better ways you can do it? For myself this morning, I have a class that runs until 11:20. My next appointment isn't until 11:30, so that's 10 minutes of free time right there. And I could have used that surfing the internet, which is a danger for me, but I was aware of that it was a small time and tried to use that for checking my email and responding to a couple critical things that needed to be done. The last thing I've got on here is respecting your own time. So often I feel like people have responsibilities to school, work, friends, family, and people need us. And it is really easy for us to say, okay, I can do that one more thing for you. I can give you a ride to the airport. I can take on that extra assignment or that extra shift. And that cuts into your own time. And that adds to your stress. So once you've got a schedule in place, respecting what you've decided is already best for yourself. Another point I've got on this is developing your social support, like making your own friends a priority for you. Like, I don't know. It seems to me that so often when I hear people coming in to counseling services, a phrase I keep hearing is something to the effect of, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was alone in whatever the situation is. I thought it was only me that was having this kind of problem. And speaking as someone who talks to a lot of people in my week, that's almost never true. There's usually other people out there who are having some similar experiences who can maybe help you out and you can help them out. So developing your social support, whether that's the friends, the acquaintances you've got, whatever. Friendship does take work. It is people that you are close to, you are having shared struggles with, and it takes effort to maintain that relationship. It involves talking with other people, and one of the reasons I love working on a college campus is there are so many different places where you have classes, and presumably the other people in the classes are there for the same reason you are. They like the subject. You've got clubs for every topic imaginable. Like, there's so much going on campus, so many different ways to connect to people. It's a lot of common ground to start from, honestly. And, well, if the things that are working for you aren't quite sufficient for whatever's being faced there, whatever the scary thing is that's getting us distracted and trying to get away from reality, we've got counseling services. We are there to help. We're on the second floor of the English Counseling Services building, which is honestly unfair because we were there first. We should have top billing, but that's not how it happened. Our office is open from 8 to 5 every weekday. We always have counselors there and available. We work with individuals, we work with groups, we work with couples. And for K-State students, the first 4 sessions have already been paid for by your privilege fee. So if cost is an issue, those first 4, you've already spent the money on. We provide alcohol intervention services and career intervention services, career assessments. And we've got more online free resources than I can shake a microphone at. Like, we have cat chats like this one. We've got a series of stress management workshops that are going to be going on throughout this semester. For more detailed information on, how to bring stress down. We've got an at-risk series of online trainings for how to talk with K-State students who you're kind of worried about. There might be something going on with them. And we've got academic anxiety and stress management online resources through our website. They're little, I think, 4-part web series where you can go through them, you can practice the skills offered, and come back to them at your own pace. And I've got free written up here a bunch. We've got a lot of resources that are just out there for K-State students, and we want people using them. So, I'm curious for you guys. What questions, comments, and concerns about video games and mental health, about counseling services, K-State in general, can I answer for you guys? I hate when I do it too good. Alright, I will try and fix that one in a bit. Okay, so, well, let me ask you guys, what brought you out here?
Well, first it was part of the assignment, but
Yep.
there was a few timely topics that we could have chose from. Trying to being when you had both also someone who plays video games, it was obviously something that I was interested in. Just something that I realized that sometimes we can all kind of go overboard on the sort of ways to manage that. I understand.
I figured for myself, kind of the first thing I had noticed, well, not the first thing, one of the big moments I realized was in my own undergrad. I was on the fencing team, and we had a guy who was a great fencer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the sport, but he was a B-rated fencer. So working up there on national level, and World of Warcraft came out, and he stopped going to practice. Like, this is a guy who was on scholarship to college to do fencing, and just stopped. And I mean, he was around, but we kind of never really saw him again. And that really got me thinking, like, this can be a problem. For myself, I also try and think about the ways in which we can use this supportively, which is why I'm glad we're talking about, games as stress relief. Not all the time, but it's part of the things that we do. Okay, well, if y'all have any questions, that is the presentation that I have here. So, thank you much.
Thank you.
I turn the microphone off. All right.